Born on February 10, 1996, Skylar Nees was the only child of parents Dave and Mary Nees. She was an energetic and shy girl who won the hearts of everyone she interacted with. Skylar was brilliant and had an interest in math and reading. She was a 4.0 GPA straight A student at University High School in Morningtown, West Virginia. Skylar made her two closest friends, Sheila Eddy and Rachel Schoaf, while she was a student. She was extremely devoted to the group, whom she referred to as the Three Musketeers, and to anyone else she thought was a friend. The 16-year-old spent countless hours on the phone with Sheila and Rachel when she wasn't in class or at her job at the neighborhood Wendy's. After working the night shift on July 5, 2012, Skylar went back to her house. She gave both of her parents a kiss before going to bed. On July 6, both of Skylar's parents departed for work in the morning. Mary worked in a medical office, while Dave worked at the nearby Walmart. As her door was closed, both assumed Skylar was still asleep when they left. When Dave got home that afternoon, his daughter's bedroom door was still closed. He knocked on it, instructing Skylar to get up. When he got no reaction, he entered the room and discovered that her window screen was gone, and that her bed hadn't been used. When Dave called Mary in a panic, she predicted Skylar was probably out with friends. He called Sheila and the other friends to confirm, but no one had seen or heard from her. Dave and Mary decided to phone Wendy's at 4:10 p.m. to check on Skylar because she was scheduled to work the 4 p.m. shift. However, Wendy's called them first and inquired as to whether Skylar intended to come for her shift. She had never missed a day of work, so her parents were worried. In the meanwhile, Sheila called Mary and told her that Rachel, Skylar, and she herself had snuck out the previous night to drive around town. Skylar was dropped off at the end of the street around midnight, as she didn't want to be dropped off in front of the apartment building. She feared her parents would catch her trying to sneak back inside. Dave called the police after Mary got concerned that her daughter might have been kidnapped from the drop-off location. Police immediately retrieved security footage from the apartment complex after receiving the call from Skylar's father, which showed Skylar freely getting into a car at around 12:30 a.m. on July 6. They, therefore, assumed she was a runaway and decided not to send out an AMBER alert. Skylar hadn't previously run away, so her parents weren't happy about this. Sheila arrived to assist in the search and to console Dave and Mary when the police were called. Along with Mary, she assisted with flyer distribution and went door to door throughout the neighborhood. Sheila seemed worried about her missing friend. A few days after Skylar vanished, Dave issued a public plea through the local media, addressing both the general public and his daughter. A community vigil held by her parents was also attended by Rachel and Sheila. Each tip and sighting that was reported to the police was investigated, and witnesses claimed to have seen Skylar in Morningtown, New York, and California. All, however, led nowhere. Skylar's telephone and ATM records were retrieved in order to help the investigation take a more focused path, but neither had been used before she vanished. It was becoming obvious that this situation involved more than just a runaway. A few weeks into the inquiry, the authorities learned about 2 bank robberies that had taken place in the nearby town of Blacksville, West Virginia, around the time of Skylar's disappearance. State police received a report that the stolen funds were used to buy drugs for a party where Skylar overdosed on heroin. Her body was hidden because those present didn't know what to do with it. After further inquiry, it was determined that the robberies had nothing to do with Skylar's case and were just a rumor. Rumors started to circulate in the University High School corridors and on social media while the probe went on. In addition to the overdose rumors, several people thought Skylar had traveled abroad, had met someone online, or had been followed home after Rachel and Sheila dropped her off. Many others also thought that Sheila and Rachel weren't being totally truthful with the police. With the exception of the occasional social media post, Rachel and Sheila started acting normally. Investigators looked over their texts and found no indication of their missing friend. In the end, the FBI took an interest in the case and started questioning kids at the high school. They were requested to participate in interviews and polygraph testing after it was noted that Rachel and Sheila had been acting strangely since their friend went missing. Sheila failed hers and Rachel abruptly withdrew. Sheila appeared to be more composed than Rachel during their interviews, who was noticed as being disoriented. Dave and Mary feared authorities were wasting their time investigating into the duo given how close the 3 girls had been. Investigators, though, were persuaded that the girls knew more than they were telling. This was a result of their story, which seemed scripted. On the evening of July 5, they allegedly picked Skylar up and drove around the city while smoking marijuana before dropping her off on her street. Police started gathering tangible evidence to help evaluate whether or not their claims were true. They were able to collect security footage from a convenience shop that revealed Sheila's car was traveling toward Blacksville in the other direction from how the girls had stated it was traveling. Additionally, a local mobile tower picked up a signal from Rachel's phone. When Skylar's parents discovered these discrepancies, they put pressure on the two to be honest and started admitting that Sheila in particular had started to have a negative influence on their daughter. Rachel changed her story in November 2012, stating they had actually driven to Blacksville where Skylar asked them to let her out of the car. Sheila's version of events changed the next day to match this story. Rachel was becoming visibly distressed and things started to change in these two girls. Rachel and Sheila stopped going to school in December 2012, and Rachel started misbehaving at home. Her mother reported her daughter's violent behavior to the police on December 28. She was then brought to a mental health facility and detained there for a few days. After being released from the facility, Rachel consented to meet with state police at her attorney's office, where she subsequently acknowledged killing Skylar alongside Sheila. She stated the two had planned it for months and had chosen to stab her instead of using a rifle since they were inexperienced with firearms. On July 5, they loaded a shovel, clean clothing, kitchen knives, and cleaning materials into Sheila's car's trunk. They picked up Skylar that evening, had a short drive, and then located a location to smoke marijuana. The two attacked Skylar when she walked back to the car to get a lighter. When their friend attempted to flee, Rachel tackled her to the ground. They attempted to slit her throat since they had read online that doing so would hasten the process. They attempted to bury her body after she had passed away, but the ground was too hard. So, they dragged her body to the side of the road, covering her with bushes and leaves. Then they changed their clothes and drove off. According to this account, authorities were able to determine that the automobile Skylar was seen getting into on the CCTV footage from the apartment belonged to Sheila. When questioned about why they had killed Skylar, Rachel answered simply that they didn't like her. Concerning the reason they picked July 5, Rachel wanted the murder to be completed before she left for church camp. Police were unable to arrest Rachel at the time. Despite having a confession, all they had was circumstantial evidence. Given the ongoing nature of the probe, they also kept quiet. After admitting, Rachel quickly directed police to Skylar's body, which was located just outside of Pennsylvania. DNA tests identified the remains as belonging to Skylar. Her family was informed. Police made the decision to utilize Rachel to persuade Sheila to confess in light of the body's finding. They placed a wire on her, but she was unable to get Sheila to confess. Despite this, they were able to obtain search warrants for Sheila's home, where they found knives, and her car, where blood was discovered in the trunk. It was identified as Skylar's in the middle of April 2013. In exchange for her assistance with the authorities, Rachel Stove entered a plea agreement on May 1, 2013, and she was found guilty of second-degree murder. She was given a 30-year prison with a parole possibility in 10 years. She spoke to the court and Skylar's family during her sentence. The same day, Sheila Eddy was detained while dining with her mother at a nearby Cracker Barrel restaurant. She was accused of killing Skylar. She entered a not guilty plea to all charges in September 2013, upsetting Skylar's family considerably since they had hoped to avoid a trial. Everyone was wondering what Sheila's purpose was in the months leading up to her trial. Why had they killed their friend? According to peers, the friendship between the three had started to break down in the month before Skylar died, and Rachel and Sheila started to exclude Skylar from the group. Additionally, the three would frequently subtweet one another. Additionally, there had been rumors, confirmed by Skylar's secret journal, that Rachel and Sheila had started dating and were concerned that Skylar would tell others at school. Police have never disclosed a motive. A week before her trial was scheduled to begin in January 2014, Sheila entered a guilty plea to first-degree murder. Conspiracy and kidnapping allegations were withdrawn. She was given a life sentence with parole possibility in 15 years. She didn't speak to the jury. Both girls are currently completing their terms of imprisonment at the Correctional Center in Mason County. The university high school students have admitted they have had trust issues with the people in their life since Skylar's murder. Skylar's Law, which was passed in West Virginia in 2013, mandates that AMBER alerts be sent out for any missing children, even if the authorities believe they are runaways. After Skylar passed away, her parents established Skylar's Promise, with the intention of preserving her legacy and helping others by telling her story.